Okay guys, so I made a parenting system in DaVinci Resolve Fusion, the free version I mean. So what I have here is a background node, a text child node, and a transform node, and a text parent node, and a transform parent into plugged into a multi-merge, and the multi-merge is plugged into the media out. There's also a custom tool right here, a custom tool node that controls the individual movements of the child, and that transform parent node right here controls the whole movement of both the parent and the child. It's more of a copy location constraint in Blender, something similar like that. So let's try making one from scratch. So let's create a new project. Let's call it Fusion Parent Thing System Demo. So let's create one. And first we need to add a fusion composition, let's call it that way, and then drag it to the timeline. To be able to access a fusion composition, you have to drag it to the timeline in order to be able to access it to the fusion workspace. So right here, first we need to add a background node and plug it to the media out. Then for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna add a text node to demonstrate the child parenting system right here in Fusion. So let's add the text plus right here, and let's name this text underscore child. And let's type in the child right here and set it to blue, something like blue, to be able to distinguish it visually. And let's also add another text for the parent. For demonstration purposes, I'm gonna use text nodes, but I think it could be done with, I tried this on image nodes and it also worked. Text underscore parent, let's name it that way. Type in parent right here and name it color red. So what I did is I deleted these merge nodes, and let's add a multi-merge node. Let's connect the square outputs right here. Now they have this. Now they have these layers right here, right in the multi-merge. So right here there's individual controls for each of the parent and the child layer. And let's add the transform node right here. So this transform node right here, this will control how the parents move, and the child will move along with the parent. That's it. Let's call this transform underscore parent. So what I'm gonna do right here is I'm gonna make this child copy the transform of the parent, but be able to edit the child's movements later on. So right here we're gonna add select the child layer on the MultiMerge nodes, right click center, choose expression, and let's type this. Transform we're gonna call that node right there, the transform parent node, we're gonna call that one transform parent dot, we need to dot. So now we call the transform parent node. What variable are we gonna use? So we're gonna use center. It's center with a capital C. Now if we move this around, now the child follows the movements of the parent, but I cannot control the individual controls of the child. And if we click and drag the slider right here of the child layer, I cannot move it anymore. Wait. Does this work? It does work. Okay. And I didn't expect it to be this simple. Apparently this one also works. Not sure how I ended up with the custom node workaround, but apparently this one also works. Let's try using this. Does this work? So I keyframe the parent and the child moves along with it. Now I want the child to move by itself. Let's add a keyframe there and let's drag it to the right. Yeah, now the child ran away. It also works. I didn't know this also works, because there's another workaround for this, which involves using a custom node. So shift space, add in a CustomTool node actually, and there's also this lots of sliders right over there, but we only need the number one and number in one and number in two. So let's add in a point. we're calling in an X and Y coordinate right here. Point. 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 Let's see. Oh, this name, it is named CustomTool. Tool 1. What variable? We add the period. Dot CustomTool 1 dot number in 1. So number in 1 refers to the first slider, that one that looks like a scroll wheel. And then for the Y value, we're gonna get the custom tool, the same custom tools, but we're gonna use a different slider, number in 2. Then does it work? Also works. What's really weird in DaVinci is that you can add transforms on top of transforms like this. We add the keyframe there. Okay, we can rotate this one. We have an X and Y value. Let's just rename this one. Input 1x offset, input 2 y offset, and let's disable the other ones to avoid confusion. Now it's only one control. And that's the 2 ways you can add the parent right here. Actually, for the custom tool workaround, this only gets the X and Y positions of, this only manipulates the X and Y positions. So if we want to add also rotation, can add an expression right here, and let's call the name transform parent dot angle. This refers to the angle rotation plus and let's call in the custom tool 1. Let's call the custom tool node and call the call the third slider number in 3. Let's show the number in 3. and it seems to work until it looks like it's moving too slowly. So let's add a multiplier. Times 45 will probably do. Let's, when you move it right here, oh, now it pivots around whatever this is. Oh my god, I managed to do it. I managed to make it pivot around the parent. This is weird. When I tried to do this earlier, it only rotates by individual origins, but now I managed to do it. How did I do it? Okay, so I added a text child, I added a transform child, I added a parent, I added a parent node, I added a text node parent transform multi-merge, and I managed to do it. Now it pivots around the parent. This is weird. Earlier I tried to do this, but it only rotates by individual origins. So let's animate this one. Transform parent, make sure transform parent is selected, and let's rotate this a little bit. Yeah, let's think in 360 degrees. Yeah, now I managed to do it. So this is how parenting systems work in DaVinci. I'm also new to this, so if you find this helpful, or if you have any feedback, please leave in the comments below. Thank you for watching.